I'm Sue Dorey, and I am Program Manager, Violence Reduction and Incident Response at Emily Carr University. Restorative justice journey has been ongoing for me since 2004, when I was working with young offenders at an RCMP detachment at the time that the Youth Justice Act changed, where there was a shift on, especially for youth and young people, to ensure that we were supporting them and taking accountability in a different ways. After that, I've worked in education, both K-12 and university level of education. So my interest in restorative justice has really been around creating spaces and supports for people to be accountable when they make mistakes, when they cause harm, to put the structures in place that allow them to be accountable for those things. I have a master's in social work, and so I've always worked in areas of social justice and worked with individuals who have been marginalized or vulnerable. And so, working from that field of social work means advocating and supporting not only for personal change, but system change. And so restorative justice practices really forces us to be accountable to the systems that we have in place, and do they serve all these people and address all the root causes for why we see what's happening. For me, it's definitely dignity as the leading value that directs is how are we treating everybody with dignity through these processes, and everybody has human rights, and we're all, needing to look at this in a way that is restoring people's dignity, and that isn't always reflected in our justice system and in punitive systems. So I would say for me, that's my heart leading value. But inclusion, making decisions with people, not just for people or to people, is another. Respect and safety are other values that I think come in there, but definitely dignity and inclusion would be the two that lead me to this work. I always look back to the students that were getting suspended and how that felt, and how those experiences were often shaming, and their early punitive responses that our systems have, that those children are often acting out because of trauma. And so it's not just our justice systems, but our other institutions and our education system that needs to lean into more of these accountability processes that support the whole child, that support their families, so that they can grow and learn from their mistakes. And sometimes it's easier for the society to lean into it when it's a child. We're a bit more forgiving. So I've always worked in education and youth. And so I've always felt when we've invited community to this table, when it's a child at the center of it, there's a little bit more willingness for them to look at a restorative approach. And so that's been fulfilling in a lot of ways. But there's still change that needs to happen in the education system as well as other justice systems. So I would say definitely that we have a punitive idea of we cause change by punishment. Rather than understanding that we can cause change by support and understanding trauma, and really looking at what behavior is about, understanding the roots of behavior. And so I think there's a huge role for restorative justice to play in our education system that is underutilized. We still rely on suspension and other punitive practices. So there's lots of room to grow in that area. And when it does happen, it is rewarding for people. People feel good about it when they see the outcomes. So sometimes when working with youth in restorative justice, it's a little bit easier to ask the adults, remember those times when you were young and you were messing up and how that felt? And what did you need? You needed support, you needed understanding, you needed guidance, you need people to help you do better. You needed to learn how to say sorry. We don't know how to do that. So we need to set these spaces and supports so people can learn how to be accountable. RJ to me is supporting relationships and supporting spaces where people can lean into accountability and can do what's very difficult work, to hear how they've hurt somebody or impacted somebody. And then from that, we can maybe heal and maybe move forward. But yeah, it's the creation of that space for me, and allowing those processes to happen.